Tar du opp, eller? Sweet. Er du klar?
Ja.
Ja, det er det altså. Welcome to the December subscription tasting with friends. Today I have with me Tommy Bratse.
Yes.
Yes. Who are you?
Well, I'm an educated chef, now working in sales. 38.
38 years
Yes.
old. Yeah, so same age as me then.
Yeah.
Almost. So the reason why I invited you is because you are a coffee subscriber. How long have you been subscribing to the coffee?
Not so long, because I've always been like a regular customer.
Yeah.
But I think for the last 6 months, I've been subscribing.
And how do you like that?
I like that very much because then I get all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tend to send, sometimes we have some special coffees. The reason why we send it out to the subscribers is because a lot of times there's not a lot of kilos. So for instance, when we have a new variety from Finca Tamana or Nascimento, normally the first harvest are like 60 kilos and then the next year it's 100 kilos. And since we know already how many kilos we need for the subscription, it's pretty easy to kind of set aside this coffee we'll send out to our subscribers. And we also like to treat our hardcore fans.
Yeah.
And people who we know appreciate those kind of coffees.
Yeah.
Okay, how did you get into coffee?
Since I'm a chef, I'm very much into taste and like to taste. Yeah, I'm like a taste nerd.
Yeah.
And I started brewing beer, home brewing with a friend of mine. And at that point there was a lot of coffee beers, and we wanted to make like our own coffee beer.
Yeah.
And actually that's where it really started. I've always been drinking coffee, but yeah, that's where it started. I think it's around 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then now I'm here.
Now you're here. And by the way, Tommy is always nagging me. Every year when we don't have a certain coffee,
Yes.
Hunkute,
Yep.
I always get messages on Messenger. When is Hunkute coming back? When is Hunkute coming back? Every 2-3 weeks.
How much bags do we have left?
Yeah.
How much?
So I can assume that that's your favorite coffee, maybe.
That's right.
Yeah. That's nice, because I was just in Ethiopia and have some exciting projects for next year. So maybe you'll find a new favorite coffee from Ethiopia. We'll see. Well, enough about that. Anything else you want to say, or no? Let's just get into the actual coffee tasting.
Yeah, that's nice.
Because this month I have selected 3 different coffees. 2 of them are from the same farm, and then 1 coffee I put in there to give you some contrast. Because you don't appreciate the really fruity notes until you have something very different. So as a kind of amateur taster, I'm not saying that you are, but for me at least, when I started tasting coffee, it was hard to taste differences in coffee until I had 2 very different coffees side by side. So then it was easy. But the first coffee we're going to send out this month is Pacas variety from the farm Nascimento in Honduras. And this is the first farm we actually started working with very closely. Back in 2009 was my first visit, but we actually bought the coffee through Capo Excellence, which is a competition for farmers. We bought that coffee in 2008, and I liked it so much so I went to visit the farm, and then we bought it again. And ever since we've kind of been working with Rodnir, who is the farmer, to increase the quality. Anything from planting new varieties, which we will taste also today.
Okay, cool.
We have improved the processing. He has built a new house. He's building a new mill. He stopped using Roundup. He's using better fertilizer. He's planting shade trees. The list goes on and on. And this has gone, it's not something you change overnight. So since 2009, that's been the kind of goal, to increase the quality. And this year, I think he has had the best harvest in a long time when it comes to quality, but also much less quantity. So, for instance, last year we bought 150 bags from him, and this year we could only buy 60. And that's just because last year's harvest was so big, so the trees are kind of recovering. And also he had very extreme cold weather, so some of the coffees who were on the tree didn't develop.
Okay.
So when the coffee tree has kind of frost, the beans die, and he has very high altitude, so that happens. Okay. Should we taste?
Yes.
Well, for me at least, this is a fruit bomb. It's not like a Kenyan fruit bomb, because it doesn't have all that acidity.
Yeah, that's true.
But it has a lot of the same flavor notes, and I'll show you what I mean by serving you the next coffee, which is a Bourbon from El Salvador. So let's give you some of that. And I'll top this up for you so you have a little bit more. Now the second coffee we're going to send out is a Bourbon variety from Los Pirineos in El Salvador. And of course this is not so far away from Nacimiento in terms of flight, but the climate is totally different. It's Pacific Ocean, Nacimiento is Atlantic Ocean. They're both in mountains, but the climate is very, very different. But the Bourbon that Gilberto grows at Los Pirineos does not have acidity. I mean, it's there, but compared to this coffee, it's very, very low. It's more of a kind of a milk chocolate hazelnut kind of experience. So if you have a little sip of that and then go back to the Nacimiento.
Oh yes.
It's super sweet and kind of syrupy, heavy, chocolatey coffee. And now if you go back to the...
Cocoa nibs, no?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
For sure.
Yeah. Oh. Wow.
Now you get the fruit sensation.
Yeah. You really do.
Yeah. So for me, the Nacimiento Pacas is very winey, but it doesn't have a lot of acidity. So it's more like a, what can I say, heavy red wine than a light burgundy wine, if you know what I mean.
Delicious.
Yeah, nice.
Yes.
The third coffee is also from Nacimiento, and it's the SL28 variety. We had the first harvest last year.
Okay.
But all that coffee went to Restaurant Noma. This year we have a little bit more. Yeah. We have 90 kilos.
Okay.
So our subscribers will get some, and then we might sell some in the web shop if Noma doesn't take the rest. But this is SL28 variety, Kenyan variety, very common in Kenya, but grown in Honduras. So the acidity level is a little bit lower, but you still have that blackcurrant flavor. That's very common for these varieties. We taste. And more acidity, of course.
Yeah, a lot more.
And I love to go back to the Bourbon. And this coffee makes the Bourbon taste even more kind of chocolatey, you know, dark chocolate almost.
Yeah. Well, the SL28 has been also one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The Kiava Mururu, I like very much.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I think for most coffee buyers or coffee lovers, SL28 is one of those star varieties that just always taste good. Yeah. Even though I have tasted SL28 that is terrible, you know. You get a lot of terrible coffee in Kenya, and you get a lot of great coffee in Kenya. So it's all on how you treat it and harvest and so on. But if you do the job well, normally it will taste pretty good if it has good altitude and so on. So you can't just grow this, you know, on the beach in El Salvador. It will taste like nuts and peanuts. Yeah. But and it probably won't survive because it's too hot. But as soon as you get a certain altitude, you get fruit flavor, and then the colder the climate and kind of the slower the maturation, the more fruit and acidity you get. Yeah, so that's the 3 coffees we're going to send out. It's I think if you combine them together, it'll taste like Christmas cake. Yeah, because you have chocolate, you have fruit. It's like red fruits, and at least the Nascimento, it's not too acidic, so it's kind of really sweet and comforting, and that's also why we chose it as our Christmas coffee. So although it says Christmas coffee on the bag, it is actually from a farm. It's not grown by Santa Claus. And also for the espresso subscribers, we'll send out the same coffees, espresso roast. Any brewing tips on these? Well, the Boji that we sent out last week or last month was quite easy to extract, so we had to go quite coarse on the grinder. This one is kind of in the middle, so you have to go a little bit finer than the Boji at least to get it to extract both of them. The SL28 maybe slightly coarser. Yeah, and that's also because it's from the highest point on the farm, 1800 meters, whereas the Pacas was grown on the middle of the farm, so 1700 meters. But what happens when you walk up that hill, we actually made a video of it I think last year. But when you walk up the hill, the farm is just on the hillside, and so when you're walking on to the top, all of a sudden you see this kind of new area with a lot of stones, big stones, and that's where he planted the SL28. And I was there in March and could see that the trees were struggling because it had been so cold, but that also meant longer maturation, so more flavor. Yeah, which one did you like the most? Hard to say, maybe?
Yeah, hard to say. They're all really good. I was really surprised by the change of flavor after I tasted the Bourbon. This was the Bourbon?
Yeah.
And then going back was really interesting. Really good.
It's funny because Bourbon is kind of a mother plant, and Pacas is a mutation of that. So it's a mutation that was discovered in El Salvador, but this is planted in Honduras, of course. But a mutation is basically you have a lot of Bourbon trees, and all of a sudden one of the trees act different. They look different. So this was a smaller, more compact Bourbon, and that produced well. So the farmer selected that, planted seeds, and then all the children of those seeds were also compact and produced a lot. So it's kind of a mutated variety, so it's stable. Sometimes, you take seeds from a tree and then you plant and then you get all sorts of things coming out of it because the variety is not stable. It might have been a hybrid or something. So they're actually from the same kind of genetics, except something happened in the genes of this coffee tree, so it's a little bit shorter. Okay. So you could assume that they taste very similar, because it's basically the same, but they taste extremely different.
Yeah.
One thing is, of course, where it's grown, but the variety is the main reason. Because you can taste Bourbon and Pacas from the same farm in El Salvador, and they will also taste quite different, which is strange. Yeah. But that's why we love coffee. We don't understand everything. Oh. And Pacas is actually the same as Caturra in Colombia, the same kind of mutation. So they don't come from the same trees, but the same mutation happened in Brazil, where they had a lot of Bourbon trees, and all of a sudden there was one small there, And farmers like compact varieties, because when they grow very tall, it's difficult to pick. It's better if they're short, and it's much easier to pick. So, they grow tall as well, but slower than the Bourbon. Okay. That's today's coffee lesson.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you for coming. If you would like to subscribe to our coffees, go to our website. You can also subscribe to our videos. You can sometimes buy a lot of these coffees from our online stores. You don't have to subscribe, except this SL28 will probably not be available there. Also, if you have any questions or comments, I think there's a comment field in below. Yeah. We do get some comments from time to time, and I try to answer them. I don't have time to do it always, but sometimes. Like when you send me a messenger requests, when is the Unkuta coming? I feel obliged to reply.
Yeah, and you always do. So
I try to, but sometimes you just don't have enough time.
I really appreciate. Tim is always answering. Yeah, I like that very much. I'm very happy that you invited me. So
thanks for
you say I'm humbled.
Yeah.
A little bit starstruck.
That's nice.
being here, but really good. Great coffee.
Yeah, thanks.
We have more?
Yeah, of course. Let's drink the rest.
Yes.
Cool.